So here on your right-hand side, you have Per Faldholt of Vestas.
No, Novozymes.
Sorry. I thought I'm not going to mix it up.
I can change job if it does.
Okay, so Per Faldholt of Novozymes, Finn Madsen of Vestas, and Martin Bensø of the Danish Academy of Technical Sciences and DTU. And before we start the panel discussion, I just want to make sure we've got the mics, the free mics in the room. We have one, we have two. If you two guys split up and stand apart, it may prove more efficient in the long run. Also, before we start, I'd like to know what is the potential of the room right now, the present status on our question resources. So anybody with a question, I do not guarantee that you will be given the opportunity to actually fire off your question, but anybody with a question, please raise your hand. Okay, that's an improvement. So let's start with Dave. And please, for the benefit of everybody, state your name and your home institution. Thank you.
David Levy, the University of Sydney. This is a question for the two industry people. You employ lots of engineers, and you have an opportunity to examine your incoming cohorts and see what it is that you are being provided with. So my question is, what is the one thing that you would change in the engineers that you are employing? I.e., what can we provide? What is the one thing you would like to see us provide that is different in the incoming engineers? New skill, new attitude, new whatever.
Yeah, if I should start, then first of all, I would start to say that I think you do an excellent job. We do actually hire very strong people across the world. I have, of course, things can always be better. For me, it is important that people are creative, that they dare go out of their comfort zone. A lot of scientists, and most of us trained as scientists, we are very scared to make a fool out of ourselves. We've always been trained to be right, to make our experiments the right way so nobody can put a finger on how precise these results are. And often I find that if you don't dare make a stupid experiment, then you will not make the real big inventions. Because I still find that our mind no matter how good we are, how clever we are, we always have to make experiments where we maybe do not forecast exactly what comes out of this. So the more you come with courage, the more you dare being stupid, to accept that you will make mistakes. That's very important for me, that I have people who dare go out of that box. And then, of course, I expect them to be scientific brilliance and understand a lot of stuff. And you do that extremely well. But that's where I think that we can push on the creativity side. And I find it particularly in these very well-educated circles that people are a little bit scared of looking stupid in the eyes of their colleagues.
I would concur with Per, but I think also we have a global footprint today. So in terms of the professional and the technical skill level, we can find the profiles. If we cannot find it in Europe, we will find it in Asia or in Americas. So we are looking a lot on the personality. We have different words. We call it the will to win. Really that people have stamina and really are ambitious and have the will to win, because we are in areas where we need to do a lot of breakthroughs and make paradigm shifts. So it's just not mainstream everything. It's really stamina and the will to win we are looking for. So it is a lot about the personality of the people, and really to stand out And I think it was Bill Gates who said, fail forward faster. So try things faster and figure out, does it work or doesn't it work? So I think that was a very good expression of, but go try it. But also acknowledge when you are wrong and then get off the track and get on a new track. It's not so much the technical, professional part of it, but it's really on the people side that we're looking.
There was a question over here. Asger? Yeah. It's on, I think. Oh, sorry, we have a problem with the sound, I think. We have a problem with the mic. Okay, so name and institution, please.
Michel Briand from Telecom Bretagne in France. It's a very short question. Are there some CDIO university that are wind-made, that use wind for their energy?
There are universities which you can say indirectly are supplied with wind energy, but I am not familiar with universities that are wind-made. And I don't think we have universities on the label side coming in right now, but we would really encourage them to do it. So,
but I can tell you there are companies who source their energy demand in Denmark purely by wind.
yeah.
Novozymes does.
So we have here a wind-made company. Just in front of the...
Yeah, my name is Asger Abrahamsen. I'm come from Risø, part of the DTU, to Finn Madsen. I was very surprised, or not surprised, but interested in your comments on the rare earth elements. And you can say, as a future engineer, should we also get into the global scene of what we can get? So do we need geology and sort of major policies? Can we get the steel? Can we get the... Is that something we need for the engineers in the future?
But absolutely, this was just one example to be very specific on the issue, but what we all have to be aware about is that whatever we do, and what Per showed in terms of oil dependency, ultimately it is Mother Earth who is the scarce resource. It is Mother Earth. So the answer is yes. You need to think in the research activities, in the design activities, how do I basically make a total recyclable solution here? Or there is kind of a new mega trend coming now. It's called circular economy, which is kind of the new buzzword coming after sustainability. And circular economy is about, in every choice you make, as a consumer, as a scientist, as whatever, it has to have built-in total recyclability. So the answer is yes. I would think that in today.
And I can add to that oil is an obvious one now, some of the rare minerals, but let's face it, the forecast is that we run out of phosphate in 40 years as a fertilizer. And what would that do to our yield on the crop residues when we are 10 billion people and we have no phosphate to fertilize our crops? There are many, many components where we overspend, and we need to get into a solution where we reuse these resources in a much, much smarter way than we do today. Otherwise, we will not be 10 billion people. I can guarantee you that.
But there's no doubt that we need to train our students to think globally, also our engineers, because again, if you look back in history, a lot of the issues, for example, that are rising about the negative reputation for the engineering community was that people were looking at local solutions, not on global solutions.
So now we have the situation that the B team, which is this side of the hall, has scored 3 points and the A team 0. So you should really get a chance now to get in here. And we have a question there at the back first.
Hello, I'm Joe from Singapore Poly. We are very excited about this green movement, sustainability. In fact, in our Polytechnic, we have two what we call Grand Challenge. One is in social innovation. The other one is in what we call SPG, which is green, environment, and energy. So one of the things that I particularly like to, when I'm hearing the three presentation, the will to win, be bold, think out of the box, so that we can come out with good solution for sustainability. I would like to ask for an institution like ours, where we are making the whole campus a living campus for green environment and energy. What would be some of your suggestions that that you can give us on how we can further improve this what we call the living campus? On how to go about doing sustainability in our campus itself.
So improving university campuses.
On sustainability, on green and all that.
If I should give it a go, then there's no doubt that we as scientists, as education centers, will be monitored by the society. And if we don't perform a better practice, then how could we expect that the rest of the society will follow if we don't make better practices? So I think that we have to sink sustainability into everything we do. That means the way we make the buildings, the way we reuse resources to secure that we do this the absolute best way. And you see Vestas have built this new headquarter where they have been making it as green as possible. And I think it's very important that universities and leading companies, they show a better practice and they lead the way. If we don't lead the way, it's very, very hard to expect that anybody else should do it.
If I start, Martin, I think when I was a student, I didn't get it, but I probably get it now. Is that I think the university have a much bigger impact on the students' behavior than they think, actually. So I think I would like to see the leadership in the university take bigger ownership of actually influencing some of the values of the students, one of them being living a sustainable life and being a sustainable citizen and being an engineer, what we talk about today, you have a huge opportunity to influence the future.
So leadership of university, Martin, can you comment on that, please?
Yes. Well, there's no doubt that education experience is not just a transformation in terms of science and insight in technology, but it's also a transformation of a person from being a young person, 18, 19 years old, to becoming a real adult, so to speak. And of course, we have to influence that in everything we do through our educational system, but also in the way that we organize our universities. And I think one of the important things in transforming campuses also into more sustainable places where we are is also to include the students actually in the process of doing that transformation. We should not do that in a top-down process.
There is another issue when we're talking campuses. Of course, we have the buildings running. We use buildings just like everybody else, but also for university research, there's a lot of cost included in processes. And when you do make an application for funding, you put in costs for chemicals, cost for this, cost for materials, and why don't we also put in costs for reducing carbon footprint in our research proposals to include that in the cost of actually running research also. So there's a lot of things that we can do in our home garden, so to speak.
And I think that to empower and encourage the students to be brave. I think at the DTU there's some students who more or less out of their own money built a CO2 neutral brewery. They started up with big funding from a local brewery, but then the financial crisis hit. They lost the funding, but they continued. And they, in one of the buildings down in one of the corners of this area, they built a CO2 neutral brewery.
And
they lost the funding, but they continued. And these are the examples that these people who built this brewery in their spare time and finding money after they lost funding, and doing this. These are the type of people who does a difference and are actually performing the way the entire society should do.
And this brewery benefits from enzymes, and everybody in here had a taste of that beer
Oh,
yesterday.
they did taste the beer?
Yes.
Then you know
so
that it's an
you know
excellent
about
beer.
it already. Now, do you want to make another one for your team? It looks like it.
No, it's just that you just now mentioned about carbon footprint. In fact, in our institution, what we did was we make every lecture do the carbon footprint calculation, and in fact, each department is supposed to reduce the carbon footprint. So these are some of the things that we do. In fact, we even won the President's Award for the green movement because we make a lot of changes to our buildings to make it more green and friendly.
Well, congratulations on your award. Now, there's a question here from Aalborg first, I think.
Yes, do we have a mic?
We do?
Where?
So, name and institution, please.
Yes, thank you. My name is Annette Kolmos. I'm coming from Aalborg University, but I'm also president for CEFI, and CEFI is the European Society for Engineering Education. And in CEFI, we have more than 400 institutional members from Europe, and in CEFI we have actually during the last 2 years put on the agenda globalization, global competences, collaboration with companies, and sustainability. And what we have put on the agenda is really to raise the awareness that it's important to have every engineering graduate should have some kind of sustainable competences. But I have to say that when we put this on the agenda, the response is, okay, another overload. So what would be your advice to the European or all the international engineering institutions? How should we do it?
How should we do it? Bensø.
Well, I think first of all, it's important to make it pervasive. Again, if you create, you can create a 5-point ECTS course that talks about sustainability. Like you can create a 5-point course that talks about the theory of science. But will students really go into it? Will it become part of the way of thinking by doing it like that? No, we have to have sustainability in everything we do. Make it pervasive.
Make it pervasive.
Sorry, with the danger of not being totally politically correct, but I have a strong sense about this. I think the message is simply not sexy enough for students. It's too boring. It's not sold sexy enough, and in some of these areas I am in the board of an engineering school, and I speak to the students why they have chosen like they have chosen, and one of them said that what I'm studying with this title, it is very difficult to get a date with a girl, and he was studying high voltage engineering, and it's so boring. So, and I think we need to work more with the feelings and not the technical content, because we can always solve the technical content, but we sell it to the customers, the students, in a very boring way. And I actually think it's one of the most sexy areas you could work with. You get to work with the latest technologies, you get to work with global careers, you get so many opportunities, but it's sold in a very unsexy way. I'm sorry.
So,
and I think
sexy, and you will give another word.
Yeah, and I guess if I look at my own career, then when I graduated, I had no idea about sustainability. By coincidence, I ended up in a company which actually has a very sustainable profile and always worked with sustainability. And when I look at the years, what really gets you up in the morning and what gets you to your work and what makes you proud about it is that you are part of something doing a difference. And that when you can buy the product you have been working at in the local supermarket, you know that this makes the planet a little bit better place to work. And we don't sell that story, but it's a huge motivational factor for me and for many of my employees that we know that if we succeed with this, then we will make the globe a little bit better place to live. And I think we don't sell that message. And because Not being after high voltage engineering, that can be sexy too, but we don't sell it the right way.
I think we are in a unique situation at the moment that engineering educational institutions should actually grab is that the youth culture today is concerned about the future in a completely different way that we just saw 10 years ago. And if that can actually sell the sexiness. There is a market for sexiness of engineering today.
Pervasive, sexy, and making a difference. So now we have, it's 3-2, and we are about to score another one here, Ed.
Yeah, just in the way of...
So, name and institution,
I'm
please.
sorry. I'm Ed Crawley from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I'm a school teacher there. I think that there's a part of the engagement, let me use that word rather than selling, of this issue has to be to attract the right argument to the right people. So let me tell you a story from my university, which faces a problem that many universities in the room don't, which is our buildings are old, right? On average, about 100-year-old buildings. So you can imagine how unsustainable these buildings are. So we've just started this massive new campaign which Explain to the Students is about sustainability and making our buildings green, because it's hard to make 100-year-old buildings green. But of course, to the trustees, it's about reducing the energy bills. And in fact, we just floated a bond issue of $750 million US to do this transformation of the campus, which of course the trustees will recognize immediately will actually reduce the overall outlays because of the energy savings, as well as making the campus green. So, you know, there are ways to present this to different constituencies. But I actually have a question for Martin, which is in your work in the Danish Academy about this. Who are the principal customers of the materials you produce, and do the education community in Denmark, the Ministry of Education or the universities and so forth, actually take up these issues, or are they more for other constituencies in Denmark?
The main, I should say, customers is actually the political system that we try to influence on ways that, for example, laws and regulations in this country are perceived and implemented. Also recommendations for actually the business, for example. Some years ago we had a very big project on climate change, where actually our Danish consultant companies actually implemented some of the ideas from this, where they actually got a market lead, because they were actually prepared for some of the challenges in mitigating climate changes in terms of infrastructure and so on, before then companies in other countries. So it's both the political system, but definitely also both educational institutions as well as our businesses.
So there was a question there in the back, the far back.
Hello, I'm Solange Loyer from UCSC in Chile. Before I ask my question regarding the sustainability issue, maybe we should have a 13th CDIO standard, not only have a learning outcome, but have a "Thy shall be sustainable campus" or something like that. So that's something maybe you could work on. My question is no longer as interesting with all these other questions, but I noticed that you didn't mention hydroelectric power. I'm guessing it's because it's not a source here in Denmark, but it is a big issue in my country, so I would like your opinion on it, and if you have some figures comparing it with other sources. Thank you.
Hydroelectric power, you know Denmark is a very, very flat country.
We actually have a small mountain. No, I will... I think we would say that probably hydro is the most kind of earth-friendly energy source we know today. There might be other ones in the future, but it's the most earth-friendly we know today. The challenge is, as you said, it's few countries on this planet that have the advantages like you have in Chile, in Norway, New Zealand, and so on. And getting this opportunity to link it to wind turbines, I will do that. Actually, what we sell a lot of wind turbines to, and also in Chile, is what is called pumped hydro, where you use wind energy to pump water back up into the reservoirs in the mountains. So you get a kind of the best energy storage you can have right now. And there is a lot of hype around other kinds of energy storage, which basically does not work today. They will probably work in the future. But what is called pumped hydro is probably one of the best ways of storing energy today, apart from keeping the gas and the oil in the ground. That's a different way of storing energy.
Thank you. So maybe back to education. There's a question here in the middle.
Thank you. My name is Sylvie Doré. I'm from ETS in Montreal, Canada. I've noticed that we haven't talked much about social impact of the decisions. If I take hydroelectricity to follow up on this question, of course, Quebec is a very big producer of hydroelectricity, but there's more and more social resistance because of the social impact, and think about China and the Three Gorges. Should engineers be leaders in this, or should we leave that to the social sciences, or how can we work together with social sciences to address these questions? Is that something you expect of the new engineers you hire, or is it something that will come with maturity, continuous education? I know there's a lot of questions in there.
So should we leave major decisions in society to the social scientists? That's the question.
I would argue that we should, of course, as engineers, have an understanding and should be able to work within what social responsibility means for us as a company and as individual persons. And it can actually mean a number of different things. I don't think we should just leave it to the social scientists. I think we should, as engineers, we have a responsibility there as well. And at least where I come from, we try to monitor what is our social impact on the society, and how can we make a difference in creating local jobs, for example? How can we secure that there's a development of rural areas? Things like that goes into the mindset we have as well. Again, of course, this is a combination between an economical, sustainable, and a social bottom line. And we try to report on all three parameters in our annual report.
Thank you. We have now the situation that team number B is hopelessly behind. So now is the time. We have from Aarhus a question.
Jens Bennesen, Engineering College of Aarhus. We've been talking about resources that are scarce. One of the resources that are scarce in our situation is the time the students are in our institutions. So you were asked about what we should do more. So I think I would like to reverse the question, what should we do less in our engineering? And secondly, we have a quiz here where you should try to say something about what is engineering education with regard to CDIO. The man from Lego said that engineers should be collaborative, they should be determined, they should be innovative, and they should be optimistic. So what would your idea of CDIO and engineering education be?
That's an internal competition. You cannot participate in that. But
and if you do, I'm sure that Martin will post your answers on Facebook.
Can be made, but what should we do less, and do you have anything?
But I have a very good proposal for you. I think you should get your students to graduate much faster. I think the students spend far too long time in the education system. I think they should, the faster you can get them through, the more value to the society. So that's a very simple message. And I just saw the numbers for Denmark. Do you know what the average age of a PhD in Denmark is? I know, it's 35, and I was shocked when I saw it, because I think it should be 25. But that's my personal point of view, and I think that's that we should secure that we have a high mobility and that people take their education fast, because it is incredibly expensive from the society as such. If people are 15 years, it takes them 15 years to get their education.
You have a comment on that, Finn?
Yeah, I actually have a very long answer. I'm trying to cut it down.
You don't have time. Maybe 20, 25 seconds. That's what we want.
But I think what should we do less? But I think I have the pleasure of basically every day working with a lot of universities globally, as I showed, both in Denmark, in Asia, Singapore, and in the US. And there are some things which always strike me when I compare Danish universities to Asian or US-based universities, and that is the professionalism in terms of the outreach towards industry, and also some of the key performance indicators that some universities have in Asia or in the US. And I think it's about in Singapore, for example, some of the universities, they have KPIs on delivering PhDs to industry. They have in terms of commercializing intellectual property rights. And that drives a totally different focus in the universities, which is very, very positive. And I think that can help change the mindset also towards more sustainable solutions. And we saw a very good success story what Martin showed here. So I think it's about leadership in the universities, and it's about setting the agenda. And it is about basically getting on the same page in terms of these performance indicators, because there is in Denmark no incentive today to go do this. And when I compare to Asia and the US, it's very different there.
So that's the 25-second answer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. There was another question there in the middle, right there.
Hi, my name is Gillian Saunders, Delft University of Technology. I would like you to can we have a soundbite of that quote about the time spent in education? At TU Delft, the average student takes 7 years to complete a 5-year degree. This is a big cause of concern. Students are currently being forced by all sorts of technical matters to study faster, but they are claiming that they shouldn't be studying faster because it doesn't allow their self-development. They're not ready to go out to work. So if you could go and make a nice soundbite and maybe post that on Facebook, we can have that go viral and maybe we can educate our students. Thank you.
I've become a little ashamed. It took me 7 years, but I got my PhD when I was 30 at least. So there's another question here in front. And that's a very short question, I was told.
My name is Rolf Löfgren, and I'm coming from Mälardalen University in Sweden. Do you know where Mälardalen University is?
There's no time for that. Now, question, please.
No, okay. I was a little critical thinking, and I know we're talking about lean and green and so, but lean and green the first societies was lean and green, so it's kind of back to basics. And I want to you talked about Bill Gates said fail faster, forward faster or something. Is that a strategy for a sustainable life, you can ask? And also, how can CO2 be an asset for a sustainable life? How can green become red? I mean, you need water, but a lot of water you can drown.
So, question, please.
So that's comments. Comment on that, please.
I'm not sure what the question is.
Okay, how is fail forward faster a strategy for a sustainable life?
Okay. So fail forward faster.
Yeah, I don't think fail forward faster is the strategy for everything. I think that is in terms of, you can say, a behavior when you want to try out new technologies and experiment with different things. It's not necessarily a strategy in itself, but it's more the courage to try something fast and figure out, does it work or doesn't it work? So it's more a behavioral driven issue.
And I would argue that it's an innovation strategy, because we fool ourselves if we believe we can figure out all the inventions we are going to make. So once in a while you have to make failures in order to make really big inventions. But of course you should not teach your student to go out and do something which is incredibly stupid. But it's a balance.
So our students shouldn't be fearless, but they should very much be bold.
Yeah, exactly.
Well now, ladies and gentlemen, Team B, Team A, it's a draw. So that's all we managed for this session. Please join me in thanking our panel.